Real English for your daily life.
Master English together.
You type a reply, delete it, type again, and somehow the group chat keeps moving without you.
And then you see 5 people jump in before you and you think, great, now I sound late and awkward.
If that's your story, you're in the right place. This is a B1 level episode, perfect for intermediate learners. Beginners, you're welcome too.
And today's question is simple. Do you stay silent because you don't have ideas or because you think your ideas have to stand out?
We're talking about that weird moment when you want to speak, but you hold back because someone else sounds faster, smarter, or more confident.
It's like your brain turns a normal chat into a tiny courtroom, and suddenly you're the only witness who forgot their notes.
The worst part is, you may actually know what's happening, but you still don't feel in the loop.
And when you're not in the loop, it's easy to start overthinking every message, every pause, every emoji.
Stay until the end for our Word Tour 5 expressions that can help you sound more natural in group chats and real conversations.
And there is one thing we discovered. The problem isn't just English. It's also social comparison, and that feeling that everyone's watching your every move.
Quick question. How many times have you typed a message then erased it? Just the number, no explanation.
Mine is embarrassingly high. And yes, I do judge my own typing speed like it's a sport.
You might think, if I say the wrong thing, I'll look silly. That feeling can hold back even a strong speaker.
And once that pattern starts, you stop taking small social risks, so you miss the easy chances to connect.
So here's the roadmap. We'll name the real mental trap, show why it feels so intense, and then give you a tiny first step you can actually use.
And later, we'll give you one tiny trick for making your next reply easier. But first, let's look at why silence feels safer than speaking.
Let's stay with that feeling for a second. The one where you see a group chat light up and your chest tightens before you even read the last message.
Right, because your brain isn't just reading words. It's reading status, speed, and who seems more confident.
And then social comparison bias sneaks in. You start comparing your quiet, normal message to someone else's funny, polished, perfectly timed reply.
Exactly. You're not just thinking, what should I say? You're thinking, will I look boring next to them?
That's the trap. The chat becomes less like a conversation and more like a talent show, where everyone else seems ready and you're still adjusting your microphone.
And if you already feel nervous, you'll hold back even more, which makes you look quieter, which makes you feel even more behind.
That loop is brutal, and the spotlight effect makes it worse because you assume everyone is tracking your every pause, typo, or awkwardly short sentence.
In reality, most people are busy thinking about themselves, but your mind acts like every reply gets graded in real time.
Let's make it real. Imagine a new work group chat. Someone asks, who can join the client call tomorrow? You have time, you can help, but you still hesitate.
You stare at the screen, your thumb hovering, and suddenly you're negotiating with yourself like a dramatic lawyer. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe after I rewrite it. Maybe after I become a better person.
That is painfully accurate. And this is where people start disappearing from conversations. Not because they're rude, but because they're trying too hard to sound perfect.
Exactly. You think you need the perfect sentence, but what you really need is a small human entry point.
Here's the first idea. Stop asking, is this impressive? Start asking, can this keep me in the conversation? That shift matters.
Because being in the conversation is already a win. You don't need to stand out in every message. Sometimes you just need to be present.
Picture a family group chat. Your aunt sends 10 photos, your cousin sends a voice note, and someone asks, "Any plans for Sunday?"
And you type, maybe brunch, then delete it because it sounds too plain. So you wait. And by the time you're ready, the topic has changed to something about someone's dog wearing a sweater.
That's the cost of holding back. The moment passes, and then you tell yourself a story that you're bad at talking.
But the story isn't true. The real issue is that you're trying to read the room while also reading your own inner critic.
And reading the room is useful. But when anxiety gets loud, you don't read it anymore. You overread it. You imagine disapproval where there may be none.
That's why people in group chats often look quieter than they really are. They're not absent. They're frozen by self-consciousness.
In a friend group, this can happen at dinner too. Someone tells a story, everyone laughs, and you have a thought. But the moment feels too fast, so you swallow it.
Then later, on the way home, your brain suddenly delivers the perfect line, which is extremely rude of your brain, honestly.
It's rude and also very common. This is where we start noticing the difference between actual judgment and imagined judgment.
The imagined version is usually harsher. In your head, you're not just another person in the chat. You're the main character under a spotlight.
And that's where the spotlight effect comes in. It means we overestimate how much other people notice us.
So when you think, everyone saw my short message and judged it, the truth is usually much smaller. Most people saw it and moved on.
That doesn't make the feeling fake, though. The feeling is real, even if the conclusion isn't.
Right, and that distinction is important. Your anxiety may be loud, but it isn't always accurate.
Let's do a tiny practice. If the chat says, "Any updates?" your first draft might be a full paragraph.
But your safer version could be, "Quick update, I've got one idea and I'll send more soon." Short, clear, human.
That's nice because it lowers the emotional stakes. You're not trying to perform, you're just entering.
And entering is way easier than auditioning for the role of most interesting person in the thread.
Exactly. No one needs that much pressure before lunch.
And once you realize that, you can start building a new habit. Not perfection, just participation.
Here's another scene. You're in an overseas alumni group and someone posts, "Anyone in London this summer?" You actually are nearby, but you hesitate.
Because now the stakes feel weirdly personal. If you answer, maybe someone will expect you to be cooler, more available, more fluent, more everything.
So you stay silent and the chance passes, then you feel left out even though you were technically invited into the moment.
That's the heartbreak of it. You weren't excluded, but you stepped back before the door fully opened.
And that stepping back is usually not laziness, it's fear dressed up as caution.
Yeah, and fear loves to sound practical. It says, wait until you're ready. But sometimes ready is just another word for stuck.
That's why the comparison game is so draining. You see louder voices and assume they're better voices.
But volume isn't value. Fast replies aren't always better replies. And a quiet person can still bring something useful, kind, or funny.
That's the part many learners need to hear. Your goal isn't to become the loudest person in the chat.
Your goal is to stop treating every reply like a test. A message can be small and still matter.
Let's try a real-life micro moment. Someone says, "We're meeting at 7. You don't need a perfect sentence. You can say, "I'm in," or "See you then."
Tiny responses keep you in the loop. They show presence, and presence often matters more than polish.
And if you don't reply at all, people may assume you're busy, unsure, or just gone.
So silence can accidentally create distance, even when you actually want closeness.
That's why this topic hits so many people. It's not only about English, it's about belonging.
And once belonging feels at risk, your whole nervous system starts acting like a bad manager. Don't speak unless it's perfect.
A terrible manager, honestly. Mine would fire me before breakfast.
Same. And yet that's the voice many people follow in chats, at work or at parties.
So the real problem is not I have nothing to say, it's I don't trust my first draft.
And that's why we need a better rule. One that rewards entry, not perfection.
In a minute, we'll go from the story into something practical. But before that, I want to name the pattern clearly.
When you compare yourself to the most active people, you shrink. When you assume everyone's watching, you freeze. When you hold back, the chat moves on without you.
And that is exactly why this episode matters. Because the fix starts with a different definition of success.
Not, did I impress them? But did I show up at all?
And by the way, there is a phrase for this whole pattern. We'll break it down later in our word tour.
Stay with us, because those 5 expressions will give you a much easier way to talk about this in real life.
So now the big question is this. Do we really need to wait until we feel flawless before we speak?
I don't think so. In fact, waiting for flawless is exactly why so many people stay silent in the first place.
I get the caution, but if you always hold back, you never give people a chance to know you.
But isn't that safer? If your message is weak, awkward, or off, then speaking too early could make you look worse.
I see your point, but that's missing the whole picture. Silence protects you from one tiny risk, yet it can cost you connection, timing, and trust.
Maybe. But in the busy group chat, people remember the strongest voices. If you're not sharp, you might just disappear in the noise.
Not if you jump in with something simple and useful. You don't need a masterpiece. You need a doorway into the conversation.
But what if your doorway sounds flat? What if everyone else sounds more confident, more polished, more in the loop than you?
Then you still win by entering. Being in the loop often starts with one small reply, not with a perfect speech.
Okay, but I still think people should read the room first. If the group is joking, a serious comment can feel off.
Absolutely. Reading the room matters. But read the room doesn't mean wait forever. It means notice the tone, then match it with something short and human.
So you're saying don't overthink the entire movie when all you need is the trailer.
Exactly. Except you may only get 2 seconds before the conversation shifts. That's why a quick entry is so valuable.
But if I jump in too soon, I might interrupt the flow. Some people hate that.
True, and that's why we're not talking about barging in. We're talking about joining with timing, not taking over.
I still think a careful observer does better. People who wait, watch, and learn often make fewer mistakes.
Careful is good, frozen is not. There's a difference between being thoughtful and being trapped by fear.
Fair, but when you're anxious, the safest move feels like doing nothing. That's not always wrong.
It's not wrong to pause. It's wrong when the pause becomes your default. Then every group chat turns into a test you keep failing before you even answer.
Still, aren't some people just naturally better at this? Maybe they don't need tricks.
That's another comparison trap. You see their easy message and compare it with your hidden draft. You don't see the extra seconds, the deleted lines, or the times they messed up before.
So you're saying confidence is sometimes just repetition wearing a nice jacket.
Exactly. And this is why a tiny system helps. Instead of asking, what is the perfect thing to say? Ask, can I do one low-pressure action now?
Like what exactly?
Like a short reply, a quick thumbs up, or a follow-up question. Those are low risk, but they keep you visible.
Visible isn't the same as valuable, though.
Sometimes it is. If you're the person who keeps a thread moving, asks a clear question, or adds a helpful detail, people notice.
But what if the group is full of stronger personalities? Your small line could still get buried.
Then your goal isn't to win the whole room. It's to stay connected enough that your voice exists in it. That's the real shift.
Okay, that makes sense, but I still worry about sounding awkward.
Awkward isn't fatal. Most people forgive it instantly. What they remember more often is whether you were present.
So the nightmare in my head is bigger than the actual social disaster?
Much bigger. And the nice thing is, you can test that today. In one chat, try one sentence. Not a paragraph. One sentence.
Then what? Wait for applause?
No applause required. Just notice what happens. Usually nothing terrible. Maybe a reply, maybe a reaction, maybe a follow-up.
That's actually useful. People always think the first step has to be dramatic.
It doesn't. The first step just has to be possible. If the step is too big, your brain calls it danger.
And if your brain calls it danger, you'll keep holding back.
Exactly. So here's the argument in plain English. The more you treat speaking like a performance, the less you participate.
And the less you participate, the less data you get that says, hey, this was safe.
Right, your confidence doesn't arrive first. It grows after enough tiny, safe reps.
So you're not asking people to become fearless. You're asking them to stop waiting for fear to vanish.
Yes, and to stop believing that one short reply has to prove their worth. It doesn't.
I can get behind that. But let me push one more time. What if the group really is judging?
They might be a little. People always do. But the question isn't, can I avoid all judgment? The question is, can I still show up even if some judgment exists?
That's a stronger frame, because perfect safety doesn't exist, but usable safety does.
Exactly. And once you accept that, you can jump in faster, read the room better, and stay in the loop without trying to be the loudest person there.
So, the goal isn't to impress the whole group. It's to enter before your fear edits you out.
And that is the simplest version of the whole episode.
Next, we'll open the word tour and unpack the 5 phrases that make this easier in real life.
So the pattern is clear now. You compare, you overread the room, and then you hold back.
And that silence feels safe for a moment, but it quietly costs you connection.
Exactly. So now we can look at the 5 phrases that help you stay in the loop and jump in faster.
These are the words we use naturally in the story, and now we'll unpack them one by one.
So now the chat feels a lot less scary, and I keep thinking about that one tiny goal, just getting into the conversation.
Right. And the cool part is that the 5 phrases we use today aren't fancy grammar tricks. They're just real-life tools.
Let's start with the idea of standout. In our story, it wasn't about being the loudest person.
It was about being easy to notice because you said something useful, kind, or clear, even if it was short.
So if you say, I've got one thought, that may stand out more than a long, nervous paragraph.
Exactly. A short, calm message can stand out because it sounds human, not rehearsed.
And that's important because many people think they need to impress first, but the real win is just being seen as present.
Right. And that connects to hold back. We said it in the episode when fear made you stop yourself.
To hold back means you stop yourself from saying or doing something.
You can hold back a message, a joke, a question, or even a simple "I'm in."
And sometimes you hold back not because you have nothing to say, but because you're busy judging your own first draft.
That's why a tiny reply can be powerful. It breaks the spell.
Now, in the loop is such a useful phrase for group chats and work chats.
If you're in the loop, you're informed about what's happening. You know the plan, the update, the change.
So if someone says, "Can you keep me in the loop?" they want updates as things move.
And if you reply once, even with a small note, you help yourself stay in the loop instead of drifting out of the conversation.
I like that one because it sounds practical, not dramatic. It's just a clean way to say, "Please don't leave me guessing."
Exactly. And next is read the room. This one feels almost magical when people use it well.
To read the room means to notice the mood or reactions of other people.
If people are tired, you keep it short. If they're laughing, you can be a bit more playful. That's reading the room.
And in our episode, the mistake wasn't that you lacked English, it was that anxiety made you read danger into every pause.
Yes. So real reading the room is about paying attention, not panicking.
Last one, jump in. This is the easiest one to feel in your body.
To jump in means to start speaking or taking part in something quickly. No long warm-up. You just enter.
And that's exactly what the 10-second response idea was about. A short sentence, a tiny question, or one extra comment.
You don't wait until your English feels perfect. You jump in, and then the conversation starts working with you.
Let's make it super real. If a group chat says, "Any thoughts on Friday?" you might say, "I'd vote for lunch," and that's enough.
Or count me in if there's room. Short, simple, and easy to understand.
And if you want a slightly fuller version, you could say, "I'm in the loop now and I've got one idea."
Or, I read the room and I think a short meeting works better. That sounds natural, not robotic.
The goal isn't to sound like a textbook. The goal is to sound like someone who's actually part of the conversation.
And that's why these phrases matter. They help you move from silent observer to active participant.
I love that because it changes the feeling of a chat. It stops being a test and starts being a connection.
And once your brain learns that, you stop treating every message like a risk.
Which is nice because your phone already gives you enough stress without adding a pop quiz.
Exactly. No one needs a quiz from a family group chat at 9 p.m.
So, to wrap this part up, we don't need perfect timing, perfect grammar, or perfect confidence.
We just need one small move, notice, answer, and stay connected.
Try one of these phrases the next time you hesitate. It may feel tiny, but tiny is how conversations begin.
And remember, the more you use them, the less scary they feel, which is the whole point.
So the big idea today is simple. You're not silent because you have nothing to say.
You're often silent because comparison and fear make every message feel bigger than it really is.
We talked about the spotlight effect, which means you think people notice you more than they actually do.
And we also saw how social comparison bias can make you feel behind before you've even joined the chat.
My favorite part is this. You don't need a perfect sentence to be part of a group.
You just need a small move. One reply, one question, one follow-up. That's enough to change the pattern.
Here are 3 tiny practices you can try this week. First, use the 10-second response rule. Write one short sentence, one question, or one quick support line.
Second, set a low-risk goal before the chat starts. Maybe one reply, one like, or one follow-up question. Keep it simple.
Third, after you speak, don't replay every word like a movie. Notice what actually happened, not what your anxiety predicted.
Your brain may want to write a dramatic review, but most people were probably just scrolling to the next message.
I've done this too. Sitting there, thinking my one sentence would be judged forever.
And then, when I finally sent the message, nothing bad happened. The world kept moving, which was both disappointing and deeply comforting.
Very rude of the world, honestly.
But that's also the lesson. Most of the danger is in our prediction, not in the conversation itself.
So next time you feel that pause, try this. Breathe. Type something short and jump in.
You don't need to sound brilliant. You need to stay connected.
Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what kind of group chat makes you hold back the most?
We read every single comment. Thanks for listening. And next time we'll keep going with more real English you can use right away.
Thanks for being here with us today.
See you next time.